reading what day?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thank you. And we now come to the 10-minute rule motion. Chris Grayling.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to require suppliers and retailers of fish and related products to establish and implement due diligence systems to ensure that those products are not obtained from illegal or unsustainable fisheries and for connected purposes. And Madam Deputy Speaker, we have in this House debated extensively in recent years the disastrous loss of biodiversity and of habitats around the world. Our focus in doing so has rightly been on the threat to forests, particularly the major forest areas of the world in the Amazon, the Congo Basin and Southeast Asia, and also on the implications of a situation where illegal deforestation to grow products like palm oil and soy is doing huge damage. And the government, this country, has done the right thing in being at the forefront of creating legislative frameworks to help address the commercial exploitation of those forest risk products. The Environment Act created the first real framework to require UK businesses to know where their supplies are coming from and whether or not they are coming from areas affected by illegal deforestation. Now, I would nudge ministers, particularly seeing a colleague on the front bench, about the need to finally sort out all the secondary legislation that goes with that act. But illegal deforestation is not the only threat to biodiversity around the world. The loss of marine life and the loss of marine ecosystems is as serious a priority for us all. The destruction of fish stocks is nothing new. Huge fisheries in the Atlantic have been destroyed through excessive levels of catch over the past century. Massive stocks of herring and cod off our shores have steadily disappeared. Huge cod fisheries off Canada suffered a similar fate. And more recently, the Common Fisheries Policy failed to halt the pressure on fish stocks, with politics often overriding scientific advice. But that excessive extraction of fish stocks in a regulated environment is just one dimension of the problem facing marine life. I have, Madam Deputy Speaker, over the course of this Parliament, pushed for rapid expansion of the ban on bottom trawling in marine protected areas around the United Kingdom. Those are practices permitted under the Common Fisheries Policy. I'm pleased we are now free to change that and that the government is making real progress on moving away from an unacceptable situation. There's still much to do on that front. The creation of highly protected marine areas is also a major step forward, as long as it is done in the right areas. But even once the bans are in place, I'm in little doubt that rogue vessels will continue to push the rules to the limit and exceed them when no one is looking. These new laws will not stop the practice altogether. The frank reality, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that illegal practice is a feature of fisheries around the world. Illegal, unreported and unregulated fisheries are doing massive damage, ironically particularly to the small coastal communities which depend on their fisheries for their local economy. Illegal operators have little regard for national or international law. They use illegal equipment. They have no regard to whether the species they're catching are endangered and protected or whether it's a closed season. Backing those fleets up are refrigerated transport vessels and supply ships moving vast quantities of catch back to markets around the world. In many maritime regions of the world, IUU fishing, as it's called, has massively contributed to the depletion of fish stocks, especially in the coastal waters of developing countries. One of the biggest problems areas is West Africa, where IUU fishing accounts for an estimated 40% of all fish caught and is around 20% of all the illegal fishing worldwide. Apart from the environmental damage, it's estimated that practice costs the local economies in those coastal communities in Africa billions of dollars a year. IUU fishing is particularly practiced by China and Russia and tends to target species which are already exploited by overexploited by legal fishing, or which are subject to restrictions on fisheries and indeed on the species themselves, Madam Deputy Speaker. They target high-value species like cod, salmon, trout, lobster and prawns. Now, the UK do have tough rules on illegal IUU fishing. Imports do have to be properly certified, so those systems are in place. But that does not, and it's generally accepted, stop fish from IUU vessels from getting into Europe. There's seldom enough enforcement available to prevent illegality from taking place. Now, one of the things we learned when the Ukraine war started was just how much of our white fish imports were sourced from Russia if we started putting restrictions in place. Less well known was how much comes from China. Together with Norway and Iceland, they are by far the biggest suppliers of fish to the UK. And they are the biggest global source of illegal, unregulated fishing. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, being frank, we should not trust either country to be ensuring that its fishing vessels conform to international norms and rules on good fishing practices. So it's right that we have a tight national regulatory regime and that it becomes tougher still. But I don't believe a regulatory regime should be the only weapon in our armoury to tackle IUU fishing and indeed illegal fishing closer to home. So I believe we need to take an additional step in protecting fisheries here and around the world. And that is to place the same duty on retailers for fish sourcing as we did for forest risk products. And that means having a mandatory system of due diligence for retailers, particularly for those buying their supplies via third-party wholesalers and other intermediaries, of which a big part of the industry depends. In taking their purchasing decisions, all we need them to do is to be clear that they know they're sourcing their stock from trusted and reliable sources and that they have a line of sight over their supply chains. That's what we're now moving to do with forest risk products. We need to know that it applies to fishing as well and to fish as well. So I would like to see clear rules around the sustainability of UK fish stocks in the revised fishing arrangements that will need to be put in place in the next Parliament, regardless of the EU approach, which all too often allows catch limits above scientific recommendations. So when that new agreement is reached in the coming years, there has to be a clear line in that that says fishing has to be sustainable in UK waters. And then I believe that due diligence rules should be applied to UK-sourced fish as well, particularly if there is a risk of illegal operations in marine protected areas. And that is a fear, I think, that notwithstanding the change of the rules, that we will see that in future. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, my proposal is very simple, and the purpose of this bill is straightforward. That we simply extend what we have already done in one critical area of biodiversity risk to another, the future of our oceans. I am proud that this government and this country was one of the first to address the issue of forest risk products and to take action on the risk of those products coming to the UK. I now want us to take the same step and to go one step further and to apply that same principle, those same rules to the issue of fish from illegal fisheries around the world, and to make absolutely certain that when we buy in our shops, we know that we are not contributing to more unsustainable biodiversity loss in this country and elsewhere. With this bill, we can do that to protect our oceans, to protect fisheries, and to do the right thing for our environment. And I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the Right Honourable Member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Speaker Andrew Selous, Harriet Baldwin, Alex Sobel, Dr Matthew Offord, Ian Levy, Barry Gardner, Trudy Harrison and myself.
Chris Grayling.
Illegal and unsustainable fishing due diligence bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 21st of June, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Friday the 21st of June. Thank you. Thank you. The clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day.